Oh, did it?
Yeah.
Someone said add chocolate, or is that something else? That's chocolate. I think it's. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's hot. It's but hot. You know, like not spicy.
Yeah, I made mine, like that was
But there's spots.
Hi, everybody. So, I'm all right. So, just wanted to welcome you right off the bat here. I had plans for how to get you all served, but you've already taken care of that, so that's good. That's lovely. I did want to, do a little bit of grace
Oh,
here, so.
I apologize. I thought you did that in the church.
It's all good, no worries. So, it took a little longer to get all the text.
I got
out.
you. I got you. No problem.
And we are live streaming, so hey,
Nobody tell me dirty jokes.
nobody telling you about this. All right. This is what this is the plan for today. So, you see the second one there is a skit, and I need some actors. It's gonna be a very raw skit. So if anybody's interested in being in a little skit here right after lunch, I need 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. I counted you already, Molly. Anybody else? 1, 2, 3.
I'll do it.
4. Okay, I'll be fine. Good. And so then we're gonna talk about stewardship, and then we're gonna talk about budget, and we're gonna talk about needs and assets, and answer any questions. So there we go. So, you all know this as a blessing for health and strength and daily food. We give you thanks, O Lord.
There's a tune. Who's got the bazooka?
For health and strength and daily food, we give you thanks, O Lord.
All right.
Want to try it?
Yep.
Let's try it. Amen.
Amen.
Continue reading.
Okay, there we go. I think you told me that back a while ago. Yeah, because that's it's from a barbecue.
Yeah. Hello.
Oh,
Chase in the middle of football. Yeah. They've been doing well. They won their game last week. Yeah, they're doing good. The problem is, my husband was a right, and so he could guide us. It is way more, but that's.
All right, thank you very much. It looks like most people are getting year to an end, so I wanted to keep things moving here. And one of the things that we want to do is, of course, thank our kitchen crew and the folks who have done it.
David, I'm glad you brought that up. We need to give credit to those that put the different chilies together. Well, we can figure out who didn't win that. All right.
I do too. I do too. So if I can get to the right slide here, this is how we were gonna get tables. There are little cards on your table. Stuff on them, but so don't worry about that. Okay, all right. So let's find out who made what. So we got the excellent vegan chili here. That-
The bee farmer's wife made it. She would never make it in her own life.
That's good though. Right. And then vegetarian chili.
Diana Horn.
Diana Horn. Then we had an unlabeled next chili. Whose was this?
This is all right.
And it was red. Okay, then we had the cornbread with corn.
Delicious.
What about- You did the 9x13. Right. Who made the gluten-free dairy free?
Diana Horn.
Diana and I was really surprised. That's really good. Gluten-free dairy free. And then cookies and drinks and all the other good things came from
Costco.
Costco.
Thanks to Sue.
Thanks be to Costco. And so, getting all this ready, Sue and Pam, and who else do we need to thank for?
Ginger and Amy.
Ginger and Amy. All right, so. I accidentally backed up too far. Okay, so you know this one. Thank you for the friendship. Thank you for the food. Thank you for the friendship. Thank you for the food. Everyone, thank you for the good time. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you very much. Okay, so for the 4 parts, we'll have that table do the thank you.
We hold the note. Right?
And hold the note. We're gonna set, make a chord.
This
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. You ready?
Yeah.
All right, here we go. So to all our cooks and kitchen crew, thank you for the friendship. Thank you for the food. Thank you for the good time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good job, good job. We are blessed. Anybody else? See it spreading a little bit?
Yeah. It's a chili.
Yeah. Why is chili so hot?
No. Thank you.
Okay, so we're gonna do our skit. So if I can have our actors come on up over here.
Next thing about being in the choir.
Why?
Someday.
It'll be fun.
He was afraid nobody asked him. I said, I'll ask it.
You're the doctor, so you stand here.
You put Jeff, he's a doctor. Oh, goodness.
It's fiction.
That's the truth.
Okay, and so,
Doctor, here's your first patient. Where are we from? I like it.
Breathe. Off on the ones. Hello, friend. What can I do to help?
Doctor, I'm confused. People keep telling me I should be giving money to the stewardship campaign, but I thought the church's bills got paid by the presbytery or the general assembly or something. Why do I have to give money to the church?
Yes, you are right, but you are confused. This church budget is covered by an open plate giving, pledges, and other types of income that we generate. In fact, pledges make up 80% of our income, in case you didn't know. We need people to give to the church in order to operate and carry out our mission and ministry.
So you mean since I consider this my spiritual home, I need to help it keep it running?
Yes, exactly that. I will prescribe the book of order and our monthly treasury report so you can see how your money is used for the glory of God here. Next.
Doctor, here's your next patient.
Stacy, what can I do?
Well, Doctor, I don't even understand why we have these stewardship lunches all the time. Church is always open on Sunday, there's always Bible study. My group brings regularly, and I'm always hearing about the different projects and missions we're doing. How do we need to drag the energy down by looking at the budget? Everything seems to be going great. We don't have any real problems.
I'm glad to hear you're finding so much to keep you connected to the church, but I'm going to give you a prescription for a dose of reality. Have you thought about how we keep the building open and where we get the Bible study and tunes, or how we help the different mission projects?
No, I hadn't really thought about that.
Are you aware that our buildings are getting quite old and need repair? And that our heating and air conditioning systems are near the end of their useful lives, despite Jeff Bean's attempts to. We're a healthy congregation in many ways, but we are facing a lot of financial challenges that need to be taken seriously. Not unlike your cholesterol, by the way.
Wait, what?
Next.
Your doctor's your third patient. It's you, you got one. You.
Oh. Sorry, I was checking the phone there. Well, what's going on here?
Oh, doctor, I'm so scared. People aren't coming to church like they used to. We're getting older and young people seem to think we have nothing to offer anymore. I'm retired. I can't get the way I used to. I'm sure the whole church is going to go under and the devil will win.
Whoa, easy there, pal. You put too much cheese on your chip. Oh, it's true. Things are changing. A lot of things don't work the way they used to. I don't like your knees, my mouth.
Well, that's the truth.
That doesn't mean we should give up hope. We need to be realistic here. It's true. We serve a powerful living being and a loving God. Jesus said even the powers of hell wouldn't prevail against the church. Plus, we have a great set of leaders on the session who are working hard. In fact, you look familiar. As we move into the future, we never know what the future will bring, but we can trust that God is already there, waiting for us to join up. So I'm going to prescribe a prayer a couple of times a day and conversations with your pastor. Also, some exercises to build up your faith, hope, and trust in Christ.
Okay.
When
Thank you. Will it hurt?
Yes, it probably will, but only for a while until you get stronger. Please make an appointment for a follow-up visit with the front desk. Next, please.
Doctor, you have one last patient.
Aha. Well, hello there, young lady. And how are you today?
Well, doctor, I'm very blessed. I'm so grateful for this day. God has made and for a place to come celebrate with people who love God too. I am so happy to be part of this family. I learned in Bible study that I had some abilities and gifts to share. Worship fills me with energy and hope. And I can't wait to offer what God has entrusted to me back into the world to make a difference, small as it might seem. God has given me so much in life. I want to show my gratitude by using my time, my talents, my resources to glorify Jesus Christ every way that I can. Also, this meal was delicious, especially cornbread.
Then I have to ask, with a beautiful soprano voice like yours, why are you coming to see me? Everything is going smooth.
No, I saw the line and I just got in. I thought it was for seconds for the cornbread.
Well, that much is true, but I will happily give you a third piece of cornbread if you'd like. We can sit down and talk about how your passion and the world's need can mesh. The world's need can mesh. You don't need a stewardship doctor. You need a job as a stewardship doctor. Nurse, cancel the rest of my appointments. We've got a live one here.
Did you write that?
Oh, yeah.
Did you?
Yes.
Wow.
That was fabulous. That was fun.
That needs to go on the road.
It turned out better than I thought it would. Yeah, no rehearsal at all. That they're not ready for prime time.
Kudos to the actors. And that's.
Okay, so we heard a little bit there about stewardship and some people's anxieties and some people's misunderstandings about what this is all about. But as we've been talking about it and we've heard before, stewardship is about more than just money. It's an attitude, it's a lifestyle, it's a way of thinking about what God has given to us so that we can make good use of it for the glory of God and Jesus Christ. So all of those things working together give us this opportunity. Now, today, of course, we're going to talk about the money because that's a big part of it as we work collectively on our mission and ministry and what we're going to be doing. But we need all to be, constantly thinking about what God has given us and how we can feed it back out into the world for God's glory. So we have some materials here and other things. Like I said, there's if you need conversation when there's a wall, there are some things on some cards on the table with questions for thought-provoking stewardship. And also I wanted to mention that we do have opportunities for long-term stewardship even after you join the Church Victorious. So out there on the pew under the memorial plaques, we have these about legacy giving, what to do in your wills and charitable estates and our endowments and things like that. So we have that information. I would encourage you today to look at that while you're thinking about all the other things. Let's see. What else are we doing? I think that's probably good. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look here at our narrative budget. Yes, Hmm?
Oh, it's a 2-2-1, okay.
Yeah. So here are a few copies of that for your table. Your table.
No.
All right, so as we've done in the last several years, this is our narrative budget. And so this tells the story of our ministry and mission and what we're doing in the world. This year's theme, on the edge of God's future. So the first page gives you a little introduction to what this is all about and lays out a little bit of the challenges that we're facing. And it lets you know our proposed budget figure, a total of $165,759.38.
I got 38.
All right, we're on our way.
I got 59. Wow.
Right.
There you go.
Cool.
No, dollars.
All right, so as you go through, you'll see we got some charts and graphs, and then each of the different ministries has a page where it tells you something about what's going on there, what we hope to do, and how that ministry and how you're giving to the budget helps that ministry carry out its purpose, and who to contact to find out more. So you get through all of that, and then in the back, it talks a little bit about capita, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. And then in the back, on the back page is the challenge. And that is, how do we get from where we are to where we need to be? And a few figures there at the bottom. So we're not going to go through all of this in any more detail today. We're going to let you take that home and read about it and pray over it. But we are going to take a look at some of the little bits and pieces here along the way. So there's that first chart. This is the budgeted expenses broken out with building costs and staff included in the different ministry areas. And that's how we come up with this. Now, this is in percentages, which may or may not be specifically helpful, but the actual figures, it gives you a sense of where our funding goes, and that gives us a little bit of idea about our mission priorities and our how we spend our time and money. So obviously, worship is one of the most important things that we do here, and that's where we gather the most. And a lot of our energy goes there, so a lot of our cash goes there. The building, obviously, is another large portion of our expense, because it's our home. Gotta make sure we got a place to do all these things. And then the program ministries around this side give you a sense of what we're doing. And they're all pretty even, more or less. Youth ministry is the smallest at this point, because we have not been doing a lot of youth ministry lately. So that's a goal for us to stretch and get some youth ministry going on. But otherwise, that's kind of how it breaks out. Lee is chair of ops, and ops oversees the building, grounds, personnel, and all the endowments, and well, not the endowments, there's related to and other things. So gonna ask Leaf to come up and share a little bit about what's going on that way, because that's the biggest chunk of our pie chart today. So it's the down.
So I'm the chair of operations right now, and we track the money through the meter, track the budget to see how we're doing and go from there. And there's a lot of different parts of the whole budget that we track. But we're looking at maintenance improvements in the building and the finance and the church itself. Physical security, which is nice to have a guy like Todd doing that, because he's got so much experience in that. It's amazing how many people have such great talents to fit into the committees that we have. Never fails to me. Anyway, Sue, Paul, Bill, Bertha, Russ, Todd, Abby, and David are all members of the operations committee. Then we have a personnel committee that's underneath operations. That's made of Sue, Paul, Russ, Connie, David, and Debbie Hill. I'm gonna run that committee. What the personnel committee does is supervises and oversees the direction, performance, and compensation of church staff, which currently is the pastor and of course the director of music. So we do the music contract, and then David's TOC, the terms of call, which is his salary and benefits. And then there's also a review process in terms of his performance, and we revised that last year or 2 years ago, and got a better then property, and myself, Jeff Dean, and Todd, basically doing that for the most part. And falls under operations, responsible for maintenance, restoration, repair of the church building and the maintenance, as well as maintenance and landscaping of the church property. Teresa and Bruce McIntosh have been doing most of the plantings and that kind of thing. Amy does, her family does all the mowing and blowing and weed eating and what else? And this summer especially, the church is really good. Every time I can go over, good job. I mean, just
Which is about every other hour.
things in our budget, just to highlight a few things that, these are general obligations that, you know, we just gotta do to keep the lights on and things happen. But some of the bigger things, fuel, that's just the oil for the heat in the winter, 8,000. The corporate lease, that's our insurance, liability insurance, and workman's compensation. And we reduced that by a couple $1,000, close to here just recently. And Russ, our treasurer, had an audit recently for workman's compensation. We're probably gonna get that reduced slightly too. So sometimes we head in the right direction on these when everything else is going up with inflation. And per capita, I'm going to talk about a little bit. 4,000 is a bit of money there. And then some of the other bigger ones, Comcast, when we went into the streaming, we needed a better Wi-Fi and what do you call it? Anyway, the source of being able to do it. And of course, church property and managed maintenance are things that goes and comes, but we've deferred quite a bit of maintenance both in the church, and you gotta be careful about that. So this is the annual stuff that we need to do each year, and it's easy to skip it. Some things are required. It's easy to skip it. We've got to be careful about that, and then some cleaning there. So general obligations, they're around that $37,000. There's really not much you can do to reduce those. So those are almost sunk costs. We've done a little bit saving some money, but they're there, and with inflation, they could go up even a little bit. Now let me talk about per capita. It's something I sure didn't understand until 3 or 4 years ago. Per capita is the designated dollar amount that is asked of each member of the Presbyterian Church as a yearly voluntary, I guess, contribution. Per capita is collected by the Presbyterian. We're in NCP, National Capital Presbyterian. What's the basis for your church's per capita contribution? It's based on your church's membership. Membership is reported on your church's annual report, which is filed yearly. Why is our membership different than the current year membership? Per capita membership numbers are 2 years behind. So we're working with what our not attendance, but membership was 2 years ago, not what it is right now. Although that's pretty close. This per capita saying is unified mission living. Per capita is not unified mission living. It's distinguished from mission living in that it is operational money needed to keep the 3 governing bodies of our church functioning. So it reminds us of our connection to National Capital Presbyterian. Does everybody feel connected? I tell you what, they do a lot of stuff. And we can call them anytime and get the answer really fast. They really are. and the Senate of the Mid-Atlantic and the General Assembly. Per capita advises us of the cost of operation to do the ministry of Jesus Christ. So the payments keep all the governing bodies of the Presbyterian Church in operation for 4 years. So our little part of it is important for the whole Presbyterian. And we paid about 47 per person last year. We expect it to be about $50 this year. Session also requested that we form a finance committee. And this isn't an ops, this is separate and works for the session. It's a new committee formed this year that answers the session. The task is to look at CPC's financial future by looking at historical trends, what we've been spending and that. Consider what's happening with small churches throughout the country. And if you want to look at something that's really pessimistic, sort of sad. I mean, there's 100 small churches a week closing. You go, how many little churches are there? That many people in 1 week. But it's tough. And then provide presentations and recommendations to session about the financial picture ahead. In our view, Paul, Russ, and mine, about the financial picture ahead. Mainly for the midterm, looking out 3 to 4 years, and then farther for 5 and 10. So we've got a few people that are trying to look at that long-term stuff. And that's a little tricky because we're sort of in the here and now, just trying to do this year or next year. Question? Good.
I don't have a question, but I think the applause, I don't know whether it was for Leaf or not, but
Yes, it was.
Leaf and his ops committee, the whole bunch, do exceptional work. Yeah. And if you all don't know it, you can come here just about any time during the week. Day, evening, early morning, whenever it is. And Leaf is here. I mean, you turn the knob out there and the door is unlocked because Leaf's in the building. Okay, and so we owe him such a debt of gratitude for all that he does. And the other ones that I would like to, while we're talking about debts of gratitude, is the McIntosh family.
Yes.
And I certainly mean Amy with and Mac and all of them with mowing and all of that, but I mean, they're such an integral part of the church that I don't know what we'd do without you guys. So thank you for all you do, and thank you for what everybody. But I mean, these are
Without the Macintoshes, it'll be a car without wheels.
But we needed drivers. You guys.
But it does mean a lot, though. It means a lot when we can come up here every week to church, and the grounds look the way they do. They're freshly mowed. They fret over it. Amy frets over it because she wants to make sure that they look good all the time. And of course, Teresa and Bruce.
She's more of a fretter than I am.
I mean, they're here with all of the decorations that you see when you come in the door, and all of the flowers that are freshly planted and mulching and everything like that. And what a group effort. But you know, those are two people. There's many people in the church that do great work, but those are two families that I think we need to really hold out and say thank you.
And everybody else who is here falls into that same category. So, and a lot of people who aren't here today fall into that category as well. Yeah, I was gonna get around to that part. But thank you, everyone. Beat you too. Yeah,
Sorry.
that's all right. That's all right. Gratitude is always in order. So this graph then is our income division. And you will see it is not quite as balanced as the expenses. So the biggest chunk here is pledges, and there's a little bit of other stuff that got mixed in there, but mostly that's pledges. And then a little bit of open plate, which is cash contributions that come in that are not pledged. And the man's rental is that section there. Building use is the yellow line, and interest is that's around about $6. So per year. So it is thinner than the line there, I think, but it was on the charts. So you can see that it might be helpful to us in the long term to look at diversifying our income. Because we're a little vulnerable here with the pledges. Now, this is the historic way the churches have funded their ministry, is by the gifts of the faithful people. But as Leif was saying, trends are changing, and a lot of churches that have relied on this model get below the line where they can sustain the property that they have, can sustain the program that they want, and on pledges alone. And that rides up the chain in the denomination, right? So as churches, as congregations shrink and have less resources, they have less that they give to the presbytery or to the General Assembly. And so those bodies then have shrinking ministry as well. So it's tough. So I know I'm on the leadership council at Presbytery, and we're looking at ways of diversifying income for Presbytery. And your session and operations and finance are all looking at ways that we can diversify income here. I just went to a stewardship conference this past week where I went to a workshop on that very topic. And there are a lot of options, including making more use of the building, renting space, for example, in different ways. Or there are a lot of churches that produce products that they sell. Or that start businesses and offer services. And some of those that kind of take off, the businesses, the person said, could lead to 40% of your budget in income, which would be pretty amazing. And different use of building can be 9 or 10%, which is nothing to sneeze at. So we'll be looking at that in the days and weeks and months to come, what God is leading us to do with the resources that we have. So we have some options, but in the meantime, we're relying on pledges again. Here's I'm going to give you like charts and graphs. I hope you do, because here come a few more. So this is a comparison from the last 3 years of income sources. So here's what we budgeted in 2022. The blue is pledges, orange is open plate, purple is the manse, and red was reserves. So we budgeted to be using a fair chunk of reserves in 22. As things shook out, we ended up not having to use that. And we got a little more building use than we anticipated, because 22 instead of 2020. And we cut our expenses enough that we actually turned out pretty well that year. This year, the budget included $19,000 of reserves and fundraising money. And that's why we now have a finance committee, because that was that's a dangerous trend. We don't have that much in reserves, and we don't make that much in fundraising projects that we'd be able to sustain that for very long. So in my projections, without having talked to the treasurer or anybody else, but if you do a straight line from where we are at the end of August to the end of the year, we're actually going to end up okay. without having to spend that. Now, I don't know if that's how it's actually gonna shake out. But if the trend continues, we'd actually come out right about where we budgeted. And pledges are running high and open plate is running high. Thanks be to God. Wow. That's awesome. Plus, we're not spending quite as fast as we thought we might. So we might be okay if things continue. Who knows? So this is the budget proposed for next year. And you'll see that there is no reserves included there, no fundraising money included there. You'll also notice there's more blue there. So we're stretching on the pledges here from where we are to where we need to be. It gets us a little bit below this year's budget for overall expenses. So we got a challenge there, and not sure just quite how we're going to make that, but that's why we're starting to ask now, okay, for prayerful consideration of what can we do, how far can we go, what are we going to be able to do. There's the same information just side by side instead of up and down, and that gives you a little bit more sense of the direction of the pledges. So actual pledges came out higher last year or 2 years ago, not last year. This year, again, running higher than what we budgeted. But you can see that what we're shooting for is increasing again.
I think plus 10%.
Yeah, yeah. So this is pledges for the last 3 years by chunk, by amount. So these are would have been helpful if the bottom axis. They run from this is about in the $500 range down here. This was last year's biggest pledge, which we lost this year, and that was 15,000 and change. So in the red there. So blue, you can see, was 2 years ago. That was not a bad year. It sunk in the middle a little bit in 22 in the red, but we had this spike on the end that kind of carried us. We cut that off, and then in 23, it surges. It's high. Pledges are higher at this end. They sink in the middle here a little bit, and then they go up steadily on the higher end. So we ended up with some significant increases at the big end, but also at the small end. We had a few folks that were doing like 500 and went to 1,000. They doubled their pledges, which is nothing to sneeze at. So, while adding 10% isn't a bad idea, there are a lot of models that you can consider, like increasing your percentage of giving of your income. So if you're giving, the average for Presbyterians is between 2 and 4% of income. The biblical model is 10% in the Old Testament. The New Testament model is 100%. And then you draw out from the church bank.
Goes up from there.
So if you're at 3%, can you give 4? Can you give 5? You don't have to jump to 10. Unless you want to. If you prayerfully consider it and feel called to go for 10%, you know, it means reprioritizing a few things, cutting some other optional expenses maybe. That's a big step in faith, but people do that sometimes. So there, or add 10% to what you did, or bump yourself up from one step here to the next, you know. There are a lot of ways that you can prayerfully consider increasing your pledge if that's what you feel God is calling you to do. And of course, not everybody's going to be able to do that, and we understand that. We're grateful for all. This is just the last 2 years instead of 3, so you can get a sense of what that is. So you can see here, the increases here and increases down. Okay, any questions about all that? Yes, ma'am.
Couple of questions. I don't see a balance sheet. What are our reserves?
Yeah, I don't have a balance sheet handy, but what are our reserves running at this
So we operate in as fund accounting. We have 7 designated funds. And we want to go with our emergency fund.
It's just the total.
Total reserves include all of that. Close to 100.
Yeah, so if we had to spend it, we'd have about 100,000 on there. A lot of that is designated for stuff, but you know, if we needed to, we could.
Right. If you rewrote the designation law on a fund.
Right.
Just one more question. Is it somebody who is a member of our church that lives in the manse currently?
No,
And then I noticed that we haven't increased the rent, which appears to average about $1,666 a month for Waterford, Virginia. Just wondering about the.
that is correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're probably going to be increasing the rent. It's not where it got away from us. You know, the market kind of took off. Our renter has been in there for 8 years, I think. It's gone up some in that period, but we didn't raise it during COVID
That's
at all, and actually haven't really raised it since then either, except that we negotiated adding on a bit, and then we do the yard work there too. So
Yes, we do.
yes, we yeah. So we are getting with the yard work part of it, $1,750 a month. And if you look on Zillow or something like that, a small house in this area could go 25 to
I was gonna
3,000.
say, Jack worked for a gentleman who was a member of rental properties this last summer, right here in Waterford. It's got about 70 acres. One of the few designated for rental, and it's at the 2,500 or so mark. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Not wanting to do any harm to our renter, but just
Right.
thinking about the difference of maybe $12,000 a year, right, from the rental property stuff.
yeah. So that's probably what's going to happen is we haven't made a firm decision on that, and it's getting about the time we renegotiate. And so we're probably going to set that up. Was a youth suggested like we might go $100 higher each year for a number of years.
The finance committee have to look at that. Because of the increase, but given the state of fact that you just can't spend overnight huge sum on some.
Well, in the terms of the lease, like maybe we'll, or maybe they don't. You know,
No, they don't.
some They do not.
But you know, we don't do
Right.
statutes. But yeah, if something happened and she moved out, you know, jack it up. But don't want to do damage to our tenants. Yeah. Any other questions? Good question. And the treasurer's report with balance sheet is available. Check in with Russ and he'll be like treasurer@Stockton.org or email. Yeah, absolutely. Any other question? Okay. How are we doing on time?
130.
What I hear too.
How much more you got to give me? 10?
10 minutes.
10 minutes. All right, so. All right, we'll see what we can do. Couple things, I was in a workshop at this conference I went to, and it was for stewardship in the small church. And we did a few exercises. I was thinking to do that. I don't think we can fit it into 10 minutes probably, but let's try it as maybe a large group instead of small group. We'll just get a taste of it. What are some of the needs that small churches like ours have? What's against us? What are the things that are causing us trouble?
Well, young families, I guess, with kids, they want to go to the bigger churches where, you know, the people in the schools and all, I mean, big class.
Yeah, tough to get young families.
People in the pews.
Not enough, right? Yeah, we love the ones that are there, but we'd like to see more people in the pews. Aging population. Yeah,
I think after COVID, people got used to doing things virtually.
yeah,
Have to get them back.
yeah. Hard to get people back in person.
Well, I think in our situation here is the age of this facility.
Absolutely.
The age of this facility has a great deal to do with that budget.
Right.
And we spent a lot of money in the last couple of years on this facility and the manse, which it was very much in need of.
Right.
And there's going to have to be a lot more money spent because the air conditioning heating system is ancient, and that's going to be a big chunk.
That's gonna be big. Absolutely.
But I say, I think the age of the building has a lot to do with that budget.
Yeah.
And I mean, who would say, okay, well, let's tear it down and let's build something that doesn't cost that much a month? I don't think anybody would want that. And I mean, if anybody's ever been here during the Waterford Fair and watched people come in to the church and they're so overwhelmed and so just inspired, they just sit down and take a look around. And you know, maybe lots of times we don't stop and do that every Sunday.
Right.
But we have a beautiful, beautiful church.
Yep.
And we're so lucky.
I'm gonna wrap you up because I don't have 8
Okay.
minutes.
I just want to say what Richard said is right. The thing is, we've had a lot of good things that have been done too. And God bless Steve Douglas's soul. He knew the right people. We got a brand new metal standing seam roof on the sanctuary. That's gonna last 50 years or better. And he arranged to get shingles up on it, got all that done too. And several different fixes that came along. And when Bob Carr was running things, we fixed all the plates underneath the sanctuary, so we know it's not gonna fall down into the ground. So there's a lot of structural things that are really pretty solid about the building. It's all the ancillaries that come along that you gotta attempt to. So Richard's right.
Yeah.
But let's not forget, we have actually done a lot to stabilize and preserve what we got.
Well, we're gonna get to the assets.
I just want to give everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, any other needs?
A lot of times it's location.
Yeah, we're kind of out on the beaten path, off the beaten path.
Program support of the programs like volunteers and people
Yeah.
willing to serve.
Yeah, hard to get volunteers.
Word of mouth too. Our congregation is smaller. We don't have as many people spreading the word.
Yeah.
Meaning others.
All the cultural trends as well, you know, let's see, I think the second largest religion in America is ex-Catholics, and then I think third is nuns and duns, NONE, none and done, the unaffiliated, and that's growing. And so the trend is away from organized religion. So there's that as well. Is that just plain? Yeah. What Leaf was saying about small churches closing, 100 a week. Yeah. So there's a lot going on that's against us. How do you feel when we talk about all of that stuff?
Challenge. Bring it on. Let's go get them.
All right. Yeah, so on a scale of smiling to frowning, where are you in all of
My head under a blanket.
that? Okay, yeah.
I'll answer it next week.
How do you change a person's perception of religion, especially when they grew up in the church?
Yep,
They're now an adult and they have nothing to do with the church at all.
yeah, I know a few people like that.
How do you help them realize the good that is there? I mean, I've got a situation that I'm working with now that they want nothing to do with religion.
Yeah. So a lot of people who don't want to have anything to do with religion, they're not against God. They, most of them like Jesus. They just don't like the church. You know, because we do things that are weird. We do things that are old and that we've been doing for thousands of years that nobody else does. We use language that they don't understand. We play music that they've never heard and don't like. I mean, there are a lot of reasons not to want to be in church. What we do have, well, let's talk about what do we have. What are the assets that we have as a small church? What do we have going for us?
Being a family.
Family atmosphere, church family, unity,
Real community.
community, fellowship,
Support. Everybody supports everybody else.
supporting one another. Yeah. So that's a big thing. That doesn't go away.
Also, a perspective on human rights. It's very different than many of the churches in this area. I don't think that we share that enough. Right? I can't tell you how, when you think about the Methodist Church and all the churches that are separating, right, because of views about LGBTQ.
Yeah.
And we are one of the few churches in this area that has an open, in my way of thinking, loving view towards the rest of the community. And we're not attracting those that we love and want to serve. And I think we've got a tremendous opportunity to be a beacon in that space.
Yeah. Yeah. So we have opportunities. We've got relationships.
I think what it comes down to in COVID, I swear COVID's for the devil, because the devil divide and conquer. And boy, oh boy, oh boy, COVID, just changed so much what we try to do before we go. But the big thing I would say that we have to do, and when I speak to younger people too, the same thing is, well, the church is, it's like anything else. People love, the big thing around here in DC is politics. And we're all divided on politics, I think. And people love to complain, but if you don't get involved, you don't go there. So I would say to them, look, go to a couple of churches, get in there, get involved. If you don't think you like what you see what's happening, participate. And that's what it takes, participation, involvement. Start making the changes that will make it more amenable to what you want to do. The word of the Lord is all encompassing and all inviting.
Yeah.
And I think they have, unfortunately, a lot of people have the wrong idea of it. But they go, well, I'm not going to go there because.
Sure.
Well, no, go there, change what you need, change what you can see, get with like-minded people, and bring it back to what it's supposed to be. God inviting us all to worship, fellowship.
Yeah.
All
Right. So one of the things in there that I heard in particular was Word of God's got it all, right? So we have that going for us too. We got the Word of God, and we worship an awesome and loving God.
And I think also, when he's talking about participation,
Mhm.
it also includes the missions, like the feeding the hungry, the rice for the hungry children. I think that is something that is very important for our young people to tell me. Is that important in your lives? I was thinking, because I've heard it's important.
Yeah.
And we want your feedback too. So, yeah, I think that's something really, really important.
Yeah. So the mission that we're doing, and people are noticing that we're doing that. Right? Anytime we're outside the building in particular, people are noticing. Like I went to the WCA meeting a couple of weeks ago, had a half dozen people say, how's that Friday thing that you're doing going? None of them had been here, but they knew that we were doing.
One of the things that attracts people, we just saw today as we went through all the things in this booklet, you see what's going on. And very few of us actually knew all of this that's going on.
Yeah.
But one of the attractions to people, they might look at the church, but they find out the church is doing something.
Yeah.
Now, that interests me. I've been concerned about that. I'd like to come and get involved in that. Well, come on in. And by the way, we have church on Sunday too.
Yes, yeah, yeah, so the work that we're doing in the community is a big draw, or can be a big draw. Y'all that are here are a huge asset. Right? Your faith, your participation, your gifts, your time, your energy, intelligence, imagination, and love. It's a huge asset. The building is an asset.
Yeah.
It needs a lot of work, but it's a huge asset that we can make use. So, so we got some stuff going on for us here. Community, faith, good people, good program, loving God, grace of Jesus Christ, nice building, decent position, public awareness. How are you feeling about that now?
It's pretty darn good. Pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, we've got God on our side and we're doing good work. I think we're gonna be okay. It's gonna be a lot of more hard work, but I think we're gonna be okay if we keep following where God is calling us. One last question. What do you need to help you in this journey? What do you need to study, to hear about? What do you need in Bible studies or sermons? What resources do you need to help you on your journey?
I'm gonna request that the Almighty make each day 48 hours long.
Plenty of free.
You, maybe. I like my 20. Yeah.
I think we might want a full-time beekeeper on staff.
Well,
Not gonna be, I hate saying, but I'm gonna be enjoying when the fire is.
get the choir back.
That's right, next week.
2 weeks.
15th,
15. Right.
when we practice,
Yeah.
first practice.
Maybe taking the word of God and putting it into perspective of today, of what people are going through.
Okay.
Making it fit into what people are doing on a daily basis. So it might make more sense to them.
Okay. All right.
How to
Talk some
apply.
more about that.
I've heard that too, how to apply what the lesson is. How do I apply Matthew or Philippians or whatever to what I'm doing today?
Good.
You know, how can I make myself better in the world that I have to live? So I have heard that. There's a lack of understanding of how scripture actually helps.
Okay.
I'd like to see, for the people who can't be here, especially our older people, I'd like to see more of a team of visiting for them.
Amen.
Okay.
I know, I'm always the one telling you, you need to do it, but I do believe that there
Yeah.
needs to be a bigger team doing it.
Session members can go, other members can go.
Anybody should go, it should be beyond
Pointing
that.
out where those folks are and say, who's free?
Yeah.
Well, I guess, you know, I could have a little visit.
Yeah, absolutely. So a little bit more explicitly enriching or exploring that fellowship and community and support that we were talking. Okay.
Well, that's kind of what on, I think the third page of your narrative here, you see a picture of a freezer.
Yeah.
We have that freezer down in the basement, and I will have to admit, it's probably not real full right now
Oh,
because,
no,
Very,
it's very cool.
oh, it is?
Yeah.
Okay,
From the Haiti luncheon, there's tons more.
okay. But anyway, that's been a good source or a resource to use when we visit some of the older people and homebound people and those that are needing a hot meal, because all they really have to do is put that in the microwave and heat it up. It's in a microwave safe dish and the whole 9 yards. So there's another way that there's another asset.
If we're doing that, do they have neighbors too that need that?
Probably.
Now, where are the foods coming from? Everyone is making.
Well,
Put in the freezer?
I started it out and basically what I was doing was making 2 or 3 or 4 extra meals when I made my dinner. And then we put them in that and I brought them up here, we put a date on them and we put what it was, we threw them in the freezer. But since then, we've been doing not only that, but we're also doing, we have a soup Sunday. We take some of the extra soups that are made and we put them down there, and the same thing with the, you know, whatever we have in the way of a potluck or whatever, they go down there.
There's lots of vegan jelly over there.
I'll take some.
Are some of the older people in our church, are they getting some of that food? Are we taking some of that to them, or?
I know we have offered to some of them,
And some don't want it.
yeah, some,
Yeah.
yeah.
Some don't want it and some have, they're not asked when they just take some with them when they go.
Yeah.
And it's always welcome. So it's a across the board.
Well, what about Bible studies? You want Bible studies?
I like them.
Yeah. What would you want to study? Either from the Bible or themes and topics?
Numbers in the Old Testament. I think we need to go that into depth.
Oh, boy.
Are you kidding or is that real? I was gonna say New Testament.
You probably,
New Testament.
you probably like Revelation.
Yeah.
We did Revelation.
I actually, yeah, that's
But
actually.
they're,
It's still my own.
that Bible study and relating it to today,
Yeah,
I think would make the whole business of reading the Bible to make some sense.
right. So what are some of the things about today that you need to hear about?
Well, it's just any of it. Anything relating to something that comes from the Bible,
Mhm.
and I'm sure relates to something today
Okay.
in some way.
Nothing that's going on today that doesn't have an antecedent in the Bible,
Absolutely.
and it's a lesson to be taught.
I think one of the things is how we're teaching, I guess, acceptance of all people.
Mhm.
So in your sermon today.
Yeah.
God sees you as you are and accepts you as you are. But I don't think we teach that in a consistent way that applies to what scriptures are said in the Bible about it. Love your neighbor is always there. What does that mean?
Yeah. Okay.
Had a different topic. I was gonna say, we've been in 6 churches over the last 14 years because of moves to different areas. And one of the things that's been most impactful to me is the women's small group, but also some trips that we did that included missions work and also time together.
Mhm.
That was pretty wonderful. And also many people brought guests or friends who ended up coming into the church as well.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So mission trips, retreats.
Yeah.
Or even day trips.
Day trip. Yeah. Cool. All right, anything else? I'm sure that was more than 10 minutes, but thank you for your input. So yeah, we're gonna be all right. We're gonna keep going. We're gonna be faithful to what the Lord's calling us to do. We're gonna try and be good and do better and keep it up. And y'all make my job a lot easier because you're all awesome. And I always feel your support, and that means a lot. So God's certainly not done with us. We have a lot of challenges. I picked this because, financially, maybe we're kind of, we could go either way. But we're also at a place where we might fall into something fantastic that God is about to do. And I believe that's more the case. So I am very optimistic and while trying to maintain some realism.
Well, and I think, David, if I could just interject one other thing, I know I've run my mouth a lot, so I'm sorry. But I think that everybody needs to know that the administration of this church, which is the session and the finance committee and the ops committee and everybody, number one, it's not a big secret. Y'all, anybody is welcome to any of those meetings anytime. All you need to do is give a session member or David or somebody, and we can tell you how to get into those meetings. So that's one thing, but I think what everybody needs to know is that we are trying to be proactive rather than waiting until there's something big that happens and we have to be reactive. So we're trying to get ahead of the curve. We're trying to figure out what we need to do now before it is a big problem. And with your all's help, I think we'll make it.
Amen to that. So you now have before you your budget and your pledge card. So that has a place for your financial pledge, optional pledge to the endowment fund for the building, and a section about using your spiritual gifts or serving in the mission and ministry of the church. If you have questions about any of that, you can ask Russ or particularly the financial stuff, or me, or any member of session, and we will do our best to help you sort that out. So, well, who are the members of session? Well, currently it is Logan and Todd and Reg and Richard and Sue and Connie. And Logan, Sue, and Connie are retiring at the end of the year after 6 years of hard labor, which they have done extraordinarily well. And we have 3 new candidates ready for election. I'll wait to name them, but good candidates. I'm very excited about this class coming in. So, and there are actually a couple of vacancies yet. So if anybody's feeling the call, we got a couple spaces for a 1 and a 2 year term that we have not booked, if you're interested. So, but that's the session.
Yeah, I have a suggestion and a recommendation that I think we ought to send out in an email to all of our members and friends, as well as in this room, that if you're uncomfortable in making a pledge, first and foremost, you shouldn't be. Because the pledge, even though you're committing your resources for the coming year to this budget, and you get nervous that you don't want to make a pledge because you don't want to feel guilty if you can't pay it, right? You shouldn't feel that way, because this is we're God's people and we understand things happen. So does everybody in the finance committee in the session. So number one, I think that ought to be emphasized some way in this campaign. The second thing that ought to be emphasized is if you still on top of that feel uncomfortable, send the treasurer an estimate of something you're going to put in the plan. That would be helpful
For open.
for us.
Yeah.
So if you have concerns about pledging or what do you think you can or any of that, let us know, talk with us. If you don't want to pledge but can make a commitment to what you think you will be giving anyway, or an estimate of that, let us know that. I want to say thanks to Reg and to Bill Cox, your stewardship committee members, for getting all the materials arranged and for organizing all that we're doing. Session members and stewardship committee will be checking in with you in the weeks to come, and particularly you folks that have not been here in person, but just to make sure that your questions are answered and that you understand all that's going on. And then we will be dedicating our gifts in a couple of weeks. So
Is there a date for Pledge Sunday?
I'm sure there is. I'm not sure what it is.
To do it, do we just bring in the paper on that day?
Yes. Yes. I think that's-
It can be
Or-
earlier too, it just goes in Russ's box if you.
Yeah.
if it's
Or
early.
the plate,
Or the. plate.
offer plate.
Yeah, so you can return your pledge, thank you, you can return your pledge forms, to the church by mail, care of treasurer, or put them in the treasurer's box out here in the hall, or, you can put them in the offering plate, if you prefer, or you can do it electronic email. Yeah. So, and I don't see those, so, if that's. All right. Anything else?
That's right.
Let's pray. All right, you know this one? Go in peace, serve the Lord.
I'm part of it there, David.
There you
Go
go.
into bar.
Go in
Peace, serve the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
Go in peace, serve the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
Let's do it again. Go in peace, serve the Lord.
Be to God.
Love you all.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. See you soon.
Another paper.
Come on.
And I'm not gonna read it to you.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody.
Vaccines were always